Imagine living in a city that should be underwater, not during a storm, not after a hurricane, every single day. Now imagine building an international airport 6 meters below sea level, constructing highways beneath the level of the ocean, developing neighborhoods where, without constant engineering, nature would reclaim the land within weeks. Most countries would call that impossible. The Dutch called it a design challenge. Today, more than 26% of the Netherlands lies below mean sea level. Nearly 60% of the country remains vulnerable to flooding from the sea, rivers, or heavy rainfall. Yet despite those odds, Dutch cities are consistently ranked among the safest urban environments on Earth. The reason isn't luck, it isn't geography, and it certainly isn't higher ground. It's engineering. Not one spectacular megaproject, but thousands of interconnected systems. Canals that store water before floods begin. Pumping stations that quietly move billions of gallons every year. Storm surge barriers that close only when absolutely necessary. Entire neighborhoods designed to flood safely, so the rest of the city never has to. This isn't the story of one dam or one seawall. It's the story of how engineers completely reimagined what a city could be. Because the Netherlands didn't simply learn how to survive floods. It learned how to build cities, where flooding became part of the design.
Every civilization leaves a mark. These are the echoes of power.
For thousands of years, every successful civilization searched for the same thing. Water. Rivers created trade. Coastlines connected continents. Floodplains produced fertile farmland. But the very water that built civilizations also destroyed them. Throughout history, cities responded the same way. Build taller walls, raise stronger levees, construct bigger dams, keep the water out. That philosophy worked, until it didn't. As populations grew, cities expanded onto floodplains. Wetlands disappeared. Natural drainage systems were buried beneath concrete. At the same time, climate change began pushing existing infrastructure beyond the limits it had been designed for. Rainstorms became more intense. Sea levels continued rising. Rivers carried greater seasonal discharge. Suddenly, flood protection wasn't just about defending the coast. It became about redesigning the entire city. No country understood this earlier than the Netherlands. Because for the Dutch, flooding isn't an occasional emergency. It's a permanent engineering constraint. Every bridge, every railway, every neighborhood, every industrial port, and every airport must be designed with one question in mind. Where will the water go? That single question transformed Dutch engineering from building structures to designing living systems. Systems that constantly move, store, redirect, and monitor water before it ever becomes a disaster. And that's exactly what makes Dutch cities different from almost everywhere else on Earth. This is Echoes of Power, where engineering transforms impossible ideas into reality, where megaprojects reshape nations, and where every innovation changes the future of civilization. If you look at a topographic map of Europe, one country immediately stands out, not because of towering mountains or vast forests, but because much of it sits astonishingly low. Large sections of the Netherlands lie at, or even below, mean sea level. To the west, the North Sea constantly pushes against the coastline. From the east and south, major European rivers, including the Rhine, Meuse, and Scheldt, carry enormous volumes of water toward the coast. During periods of heavy rainfall, these rivers can swell dramatically, while powerful storm surges arriving from the North Sea prevent that water from draining naturally into the ocean. In other words, water can attack the Netherlands from multiple directions at exactly the same time. For most nations, this landscape would be considered unsuitable for major urban development. Yet today, the Netherlands is home to some of Europe's busiest ports, its most advanced logistics hubs, thriving agricultural regions, modern airports, and densely populated cities. That raises an obvious question. How? The answer begins with a simple realization. Dutch engineers stopped thinking about flood protection as individual projects. Instead, they began treating the entire country as one enormous hydraulic system. Every canal connects to another. Every pumping station supports multiple drainage districts. Every flood barrier communicates with weather forecasts, river discharge models, and tide predictions. Nothing operates independently. Imagine the human body. Your heart alone cannot keep you alive. Neither can your lungs or your brain. Life depends on every organ working together as one integrated system. Dutch flood protection follows exactly the same principle. Canals transport water like arteries. Pumping stations act like powerful mechanical hearts. Floodplains become temporary storage organs. Storm surge barriers function as giant protective valves. And thousands of sensors constantly monitor the health of the entire network. This systems-based philosophy completely changed urban engineering. Instead of asking, how do we stop every flood? Dutch engineers asked something far more powerful. How do we control where the water goes before it becomes a flood? That single shift in thinking transformed one of the world's most flood-prone countries into one of the safest. But understanding the philosophy is only the beginning. Because the real engineering starts with something surprisingly ordinary. A canal. When most people picture Amsterdam, they think of canals, historic bridges, tourist boats, beautiful waterfront houses. But Dutch engineers see something completely different. They see one of the world's most sophisticated urban water control systems. Almost every canal inside a Dutch city serves multiple engineering purposes at the same time. Transportation is only one of them. The real purpose is hydraulic control. Think of every canal as a temporary storage reservoir. When heavy rain begins, water doesn't immediately rush toward the sea. Instead, it enters a carefully designed canal network where engineers decide exactly how long it should remain. That may sound simple, but controlling water is often more effective than removing it. If every neighborhood discharged stormwater into the same river at the same moment, the river itself would overflow. Instead, Dutch cities spread the flow across time. Some canals temporarily store water for hours, others for days. Water levels are continuously monitored using automated sensors installed throughout the network. If one canal approaches its maximum operating level, computer-controlled gates quietly redirect excess water toward another section of the system. Nothing happens randomly. Every movement follows hydraulic calculations developed decades before the first building was even constructed. Engineers also carefully manage flow velocity. Move water too quickly, and erosion begins damaging canal walls and foundations. Move it too slowly, and sediment gradually reduces storage capacity. Finding the perfect balance requires continuous monitoring and precise control. This is why Dutch canals rarely appear dramatic. The greatest engineering success is when nobody notices the engineering at all. Yet even canals eventually reach capacity. So where does all the extra water go when an entire city experiences extreme rainfall? The answer lies beneath places most people walk across every day. Imagine standing in the middle of a public square. Children are running nearby. People are drinking coffee. Cyclists pass every few seconds. Everything appears perfectly normal. Now imagine that directly beneath your feet lies an underground chamber capable of storing millions of gallons of stormwater. This isn't science fiction. It's modern Dutch engineering. Traditional drainage systems attempt to move rainwater away as quickly as possible during extreme storms. That strategy often fails. Pipes reach maximum capacity. Pressure builds rapidly. Eventually, water backs up into streets, homes, and subway systems. Dutch engineers approached the problem differently. Instead of making pipes infinitely larger, they created temporary underground reservoirs. During intense rainfall, automated valves redirect excess water into enormous reinforced concrete storage chambers buried beneath parks, plazas, parking lots, and sports fields. Some reservoirs fill within minutes. Others operate over several hours, depending on rainfall intensity. After the storm has passed, high-capacity pumps slowly release the stored water back into canals and rivers at carefully controlled rates. The city essentially buys itself time. Instead of overwhelming the drainage network, Water waits underground until the system is ready. This engineering strategy is called attenuation. It reduces peak flow, protects downstream infrastructure, and dramatically lowers flood risk without changing how the city looks above ground. Residents continue living normally, completely unaware that beneath them, an invisible flood control system is quietly protecting millions of dollars worth of infrastructure. But storing water alone doesn't prevent flooding. Eventually, every liter must leave the city. And that's where Dutch engineering becomes truly extraordinary. Gravity is one of engineering's greatest allies. Most cities simply allow rainwater to flow downhill until it reaches a river or the ocean. The Netherlands doesn't always have that luxury. In many parts of the country, the destination is actually higher than the land itself. Without mechanical assistance, water would simply remain where it fell. Entire neighborhoods would slowly become lakes. This is why pumping stations are among the most critical pieces of Dutch infrastructure. Some operate quietly within cities. Others are massive industrial facilities capable of moving thousands of cubic meters of water every minute. Together, they function like the heartbeat of the nation. Modern pumping stations combine electric motors, high-efficiency axial flow pumps, backup power systems, automated control software, and real-time sensor networks. Every second, engineers monitor water levels across canals, rivers, reservoirs, and drainage basins. If rainfall begins increasing upstream, the system often reacts before city residents even realize a storm is approaching. Pumps activate automatically. Canal levels are lowered in advance. Storage reservoirs are prepared. Additional capacity is created before the first critical flood peak arrives. This is known as predictive water management. Instead of reacting to floods, the system anticipates them. It's one of the reasons Dutch cities remain remarkably resilient despite facing some of Europe's greatest flood risks. But even the world's most advanced pumps cannot solve every problem. Because sometimes, the greatest threat doesn't come from rain. It comes from the sea itself. For centuries, the greatest threat to Dutch cities wasn't rain. It was the North Sea. Unlike rivers, the sea doesn't follow a predictable schedule. A powerful storm hundreds of kilometers away can push enormous volumes of water toward the Dutch coastline. When that storm surge arrives at the same time as high tide, sea levels can rise dramatically within hours. If river water is also trying to flow toward the ocean, a dangerous bottleneck forms. The rivers can't empty. Water begins backing up inland. Without intervention, entire cities could flood from both directions. Dutch engineers solved this problem using one of the most sophisticated coastal defense systems ever built. Massive movable storm surge barriers. Unlike traditional dams, these structures remain open most of the year. Ships continue navigating normally. Fish migrate freely. Tides maintain healthy coastal ecosystems. But when weather models detect an incoming storm surge, everything changes. Advanced forecasting systems continuously analyze wind speed, atmospheric pressure, ocean waves, river discharge, and tidal predictions, sometimes more than 24 hours before the storm arrives. Engineers already know whether a barrier closure may be necessary. When predefined safety thresholds are reached, the gates begin moving. Steel structures weighing thousands of tons slowly rotate, slide, or lower into position. Within hours, open waterways become sealed flood barriers. The sea is temporarily separated from the rivers. Storm surge pressure remains outside. Cities remain protected inside. Yet even these engineering marvels aren't designed to eliminate every flood. Because Dutch engineers learned a lesson many countries still struggle to accept. Absolute flood prevention doesn't exist. Instead, the goal is controlled risk management. And that philosophy completely changed how Dutch cities are designed. Imagine trying to squeeze more and more water through the same narrow river. Eventually, something fails. The river overflows. Levees collapse. Communities flood. For generations, the obvious solution seemed simple. Raise the levees higher. Straighten the rivers. Force the water into a smaller space. It worked. Until engineers realized they were creating an even bigger problem. Confining rivers increases water velocity. Faster water carries more energy. More energy means greater pressure against flood defenses. And if a levee eventually fails, the consequences become catastrophic. So Dutch engineers made a surprising decision. Instead of giving rivers less space, they gave them more. This national engineering strategy became known as room for the river. Rather than continuously raising flood walls, engineers relocated dikes farther away from the riverbanks. Floodplains were restored. Secondary channels were excavated. Low-lying farmland was intentionally designated as temporary flood storage. Some buildings were even relocated. At first, the idea seemed completely backwards. Why would anyone intentionally allow rivers to spread? Because slowing water is often safer than stopping it. As rivers enter wider floodplains, their flow velocity decreases. Peak water levels drop. Pressure against levees is reduced. Entire downstream cities become safer. It's a perfect example of engineering working with natural processes instead of constantly trying to overpower them. The river still floods, but now it floods exactly where engineers planned, not where disaster chooses. And this philosophy extends far beyond rivers. Today, even Dutch neighborhoods are being designed to temporarily store water. The most advanced flood protection system isn't made entirely of concrete or steel. Increasingly, it's made of data. Across the Netherlands, thousands of sensors continuously monitor water levels, rainfall intensity, river flow, groundwater pressure, pump performance, wind speed, and tidal conditions. Every few minutes, millions of new measurements enter centralized control systems. There, powerful computer models compare current conditions with decades of historical records and real-time weather forecasts. Engineers don't simply observe what's happening. They predict what will happen next. If heavy rainfall is expected overnight, pumping stations may begin lowering canal levels hours in advance. Underground reservoirs are partially emptied. Movable barriers are placed on standby. Water storage capacity is created before the storm even arrives. This approach is known as predictive flood management. Instead of reacting to emergencies, the city quietly prepares itself. Most residents never notice. They wake up, drive to work, walk through dry streets, completely unaware that thousands of engineering decisions have already been made while they were asleep. This is perhaps the greatest achievement of Dutch engineering. Not that floods never occur, but that most people never realize how close they came. And as climate change continues accelerating, countries around the world are beginning to ask the same question. Can the Dutch model work everywhere? Or is it unique to the Netherlands? At first glance, the Dutch solution seems impossible to copy. After all, the Netherlands has spent nearly 1,000 years refining its relationship with water. Its engineers understand tides, river hydraulics, polder systems, and coastal protection better than almost anyone else. Surely, no other country could simply replicate that overnight. And in one sense, that's true. The Dutch system isn't a single invention. It's thousands of engineering decisions made over generations. But the principles behind it can be applied almost anywhere. Take Singapore. Instead of relying only on drainage canals, engineers transformed reservoirs into flood control assets. Rainwater is collected, stored, cleaned, and reused. The city treats stormwater as a valuable resource instead of waste. Across the United States, cities like New York, Houston, and Miami are facing increasingly severe flooding caused by stronger storms, aging infrastructure, and rising sea levels. Simply building taller seawalls may reduce coastal flooding, but it does little to solve overwhelmed drainage systems or extreme rainfall. That's why engineers are beginning to adopt ideas once considered uniquely Dutch. Permeable streets that allow rainwater to soak into the ground. Green roofs that delay runoff. Underground stormwater storage tunnels. Floodable public parks. Restored wetlands that absorb excess water naturally. Smart pumping stations controlled by predictive software. These projects may look different from those in the Netherlands, but they all follow the same engineering philosophy. Don't force every drop of water away immediately. Control it. Store it. Slow it down. Guide it safely through the city. Perhaps the greatest lesson the Dutch offer isn't a particular technology. It's a way of thinking. Instead of asking, how do we build a city that never floods? They ask, how do we build a city that continues working even when flooding happens? That difference changes everything. Because climate change is introducing uncertainty that no engineer can completely eliminate. No barrier is infinitely high. No drainage pipe has unlimited capacity. No forecast is perfect. Resilient cities aren't the ones that never experience extreme weather. They're the ones engineered to recover quickly, adapt continuously, and remain functional under conditions they were never expected to face. That's exactly what Dutch engineering has spent centuries perfecting. Not perfection, resilience. The Netherlands shouldn't exist the way it does today. By the rules of geography, much of the country belongs to the sea. Yet millions of people live, work, travel, and build their lives there every single day. Not because nature changed, but because engineering did. The Dutch never truly defeated water. Instead, they learned something far more powerful. Water doesn't have to be conquered. It has to be understood. Every canal, every pumping station, every underground reservoir, every floodplain, and every storm surge barrier represents the same philosophy. Engineering isn't about resisting nature forever. It's about designing systems intelligent enough to adapt alongside it. As sea levels continue rising, and extreme weather becomes more common across the globe, the question is no longer whether cities will face flooding. The question is whether those cities were engineered to survive it. For centuries, the Netherlands has quietly been building the answer, not with one extraordinary megaproject, but with thousands of interconnected systems working together as one. Perhaps the cities of the future won't be remembered for their tallest skyscrapers or their widest highways, but for something far less visible, the intelligence hidden beneath their streets. Because the safest city isn't the one that never sees water. It's the one that already knows exactly where every drop will go. This is Echoes of Power. If you enjoyed exploring the engineering that keeps an entire nation dry, subscribe for more documentaries uncovering the world's greatest megaprojects, engineering breakthroughs, and innovations shaping the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.